The Catholic Church regards the Mass as its most important ritual, going back to apostolic times. In general, its various liturgies followed the outline of Liturgy of the Word, Offertory, Liturgy of the Eucharist and Benediction, which developed into what is known as the Massachusetts. However, as early Christianity became more established and its influence began to spread, the early Church Fathers began to describe a few heretical groups practicing their own versions of Masses. Some of these rituals were of a sexual nature. The 4th century AD heresiologist Epiphanius of Salamis, for instance, claims that a libertine Gnostic sect known as the Borborites engaged in a version of the Eucharist in which they would smear their hands with menstrual blood and semen and consume them as the blood and body of Christ respectively. He also alleges that, whenever one of the women in their church was experiencing her period, they would take her menstrual blood and everyone in the church would eat it as part of a sacred ritual. St. Augustine, also writing in the 4th century, describes a group referred to as Catharistas, purifiers, who added the mixture of male and female sexual fluids to flour to create a sacrament which they ate, in the belief that they were purifying the substance through eating it within the church. The rite of the Mass was not completely fixed, and there were places at the end of the offertory for the secret prayers, when the priest could insert private prayers for various personal needs. These practices became especially prevalent in France, see pre-Tridentan Mass. As these types of personal prayers within the Mass spread, the institution of the Low Mass became quite common, where priests would hire their services out to perform various Masses for the needs of their clients, votive Masses, such as blessing crops or cattle, achieving success in some enterprise, obtaining love, or even cursing enemies. One way this latter was done was by inserting the enemy's name in a Mass for the dead, accompanied by burying an image of the enemy. Although these practices were condemned by church authorities as superstitious and sacrilegious abuses, they still occurred secretively. In the 12th and 13th centuries there was a great surplus of clerics and monks who might be inclined to perform these Masses, as younger sons were often sent off to religious universities, and after their studies, needed to find a livelihood. Also within the Church, the ritual of the Mass was sometimes reworked to create light-hearted parodies of it for certain festivities. Some of these became quasi-tolerated practices at times, though never accepted by official church authorities, such as a festive parody of the Mass called the Feast of Asses, in which Balaam's ass, from the Old Testament, would begin talking and saying parts of the Massachusetts. A similar parody was the Feast of Fools.